Welcome. This video will help you understand how you can use your out-of-network benefits to meet with a therapist that is considered out-of-network. And the only difference between an in-network therapist and an out-of-network therapist is the in-network therapist has a contract with your health insurance. So when you arrive for a session, you might have a copay, but then after the session, your therapist will connect with your health insurance, or a staff member will connect with your health insurance to receive the payment for that session. When you meet with an out-of-network therapist, you pay for the session at the time of service. It's usually with a credit card or debit card or health savings account card or even cash or check. And then you seek reimbursement through your health insurance afterwards. And most of our clients do this. There's a few that don't want to use insurance, but most want to. And we hear quite a bit about the reimbursement. And some get 50%, a lot get 60 to 80%. And we even have some clients that say, no, we get 100% back from our health insurance. And the first question to ask yourself is, am I wanting to use health insurance? And the main reason why people don't want to is because they don't want a mental health diagnosis to become part of their permanent health record. And so when you use health insurance, of course, they want to know the reason why you're going to therapy. And then that becomes part of your permanent health record. And most people are totally fine with that. There's no problems. But some people, they don't want that, usually for employment reasons, but sometimes there's other reasons. So they specifically seek out a provider like us here at Northfield Dynamic Therapy, where there is that barrier and we don't need to work with health insurance companies. So if that's the case for you, then we can help you work through that. And then if therapy is still not affordable, then we would look at sliding scale options for you. But if health insurance is something you want to use, and of course you'd want to if you're able to get some reimbursement, the best place to start might be a summary of benefits statement, and I have one here in a second that I'll show you. But we do also encourage that you always call up your health insurance and ask specifically, I want to meet with this provider. This is the rate they charge. Exactly how much will I be reimbursed for each session? Because we never want you to get into a situation where you didn't know exactly what to expect with payment. And sometimes that can happen with insurance if there wasn't something that we understood ahead of time. So that's why we encourage you to call and just make sure that's all really, really clear and we understand everything that's involved. But a summary of benefits is a good place to start. I have an example here, and this is one that I just found online. It's somewhat typical, but there's such diversity, and each plan it can be so wildly different. But this is just an example. You would look for your mental health coverage, and then within that, your outpatient visits. And so with this example, if you were to meet with an in-network provider, you would have a $45 copay for the first 8 visits, and then a $75 copay for any visits beyond that. And then, of course, your health insurance would cover anything that's more than that $45 copayment or $75. But then if you were to do an out-of-network provider, like us here at Northfield Dynamic Therapy or any out-of-network provider, they have a 30% co-insurance. So that means that you are responsible for 30% of the payment. Your health insurance will reimburse you 70%. So if you meet with a therapist that charges $100 a session, you would pay for that $100 with a credit card or debit card or health savings account or whatever form of payment. And then when you seek your reimbursement, you would get $70 back. So you would end up paying $30 per session. And so in this example, that would be financially a lot sweeter deal than even meeting with an in-network provider at $45 copay. If you were to meet with an out-of-network provider that charges $200 a session, you would get reimbursed $140. And so you would be paying $60 a session. And so then that's more on par with any of the in-network providers, especially if you were to meet with more than 8 sessions, then it would be about the same. And it tends to, health insurance companies, they run all these numbers and figure out how much you're paying and how much they tend to pay for therapy and how much the out-of-network costs are in the area, and to make the most money that they can. But it oftentimes is fairly comparable, the in-network versus out-of-network. But with some plans, it's not. Some plans, they really favor the in-network. And then some plans, just the way things fall, is it actually can financially be a lot better to do out of network. Another thing to really be aware of is your yearly deductible. And we hear more and more over the last few years that mental health coverage is not covered until you meet your yearly deductible. And sometimes it's different for in-network versus out-of-network. Sometimes it's both in-network and out-of-network. Sometimes it's only out-of-network. So in that case, then you're not receiving any health insurance benefits until you meet your deductible. So you might as well choose the therapist that's the best fit for you. Another important thing to touch on is something called a Superbill, which maybe you've heard of that, but that's just the document that you receive from your therapist, your out-of-network therapist, that has all the information that you need to submit your claim to receive reimbursement from health insurance. So that includes your provider's license number and the contact information, the tax identification number for your provider, the CPT code. So that's the code of what kind of therapy it is, if it's group therapy or individual therapy or couples therapy or assessment, and then also your mental health diagnosis or diagnoses. And we have an example Superbill here on our webpage that you can use, especially if you want to meet with one of our providers, and you use that when you're calling up your insurance and wanting to make sure I want to meet with this clinician and this is their rate, exactly how much would I be reimbursed? And so that's the place we start with clients, and then we find out if, let's say, we charge $200 a session, for example, and so you'd be covering $60. If that still is too much for you, then we would explore some sliding scale options. But we always want to check out your health insurance benefits first before talking about sliding scale options. And just for some transparency, at our practice, we encourage our clinicians to see 10% of their clients as sliding scale or pro bono, because it is really important to do that work. But we don't want them to see too much more while they are paying off student loans. So our unofficial guideline is that it's about 10% until you pay off your student loans. After that, once their student loans are paid off, then they can see 20, 30, 40% sliding scale clients and really do practice in the way that they want to. But it's our kind of way of helping our clinicians be able to get out of a student debt and then be in a place where they can really be generous. So hopefully this is helpful. Check out that video about 8 ideas. It's a video I created a few years ago of how to find free or low-cost therapy if you're in a place where you can't afford therapy. So here's a link to that video, and that has some good ideas for you. We also have some videos of how can I choose the best therapist for me. So you can check out those videos. And as always, please reach out to us. You can contact our front desk or reach out to me or the therapist that you want to meet with to navigate this process and help you understand, well, how will this work for me, and how can I submit a Superbill, and what exactly are my rates? And sometimes we'll even get on the phone with your insurance company to be helping you ask those questions. And like I already said, we just never want you to get in a position where you don't know exactly what to expect with payment. Best of luck to you in your journey as you find a therapist, and please let us know if there's any way that we can help you in that process. Take care.